Guys, it's Miss Vaughn again, and I am helping you to write your goals in your snapshot. Remember that your goals are like big picture plans that you have for yourself and your learning. They're really important to think about first, so that you know where you're going and you're setting that roadmap to all of your learning every day. And I know sometimes it can be ambiguous and difficult to think about these goals, but they help keep us focused and they help us stay on the right path. So when we get to our blooms later on, and we're writing our daily targets, we know what we are striving for. So it's a really important process that we want to make sure that we're taking some careful thought and consideration in. So previously, in a previous video, I showed you guys how to write your content goal. And remember, the content is the foundation of your house. So when we think about building this house and this house being a metaphor for all of our learning, the content is your foundation. It is what you're interested in, and it's what you're studying. It gives us all of sort of that basic information that we need to gather and focuses or gives us a focus on what we need to study so that we can achieve a higher level goal, which is our world-class outcome. So we want to make sure that we aren't just taking in basic information and basic facts, but we're moving beyond that. So we're taking all of what we learned and we are doing something with that. So we might be designing a new product or solving a solution. And so our world-class outcome is what helps us achieve that. So again, I've got my snapshot tab open and my Blueprint website, blueprintsgcu.com. I'm specifically going to be looking under the planning stage because that's going to help me find the information that I need. Okay. So again, looking for a world-class outcome, if we think about the content as the foundation of what we're doing, the vehicle for what's driving the higher level thinking, our world-class outcome is really the roof. It's that higher level place that we need to get. And we want to make sure that we are connecting that to something that we find meaningful and that we find important, because as a personalized learning program that you're in, as part of that is making sure that you're learning through something that is meaningful to you. So the world-class outcome, we want to make sure is connected to our content. In fact, we want to make sure all of our goals is connected to the content through here so that we are exploring something that is meaningful to us. So if we look at our content goals, sometimes that can give us clues to what our outcome's going to be. I see a really key word in my content, and that's systems. When I look at the world-class outcomes on our planning page, and again, they're at the top because this is kind of what we're striving for, I am lucky enough to see a theme called systems. You'll see here that each world-class outcome is under a theme, and so that's a really good place to start to look. Looking at these bigger themes so that we have an idea of what we're looking at underneath. So these words in blue letters tell us the bigger theme that we might be going for. Like I said, in my content I see systems, and I happen to see a systems theme in my world-class outcome. And so that gives me a good place to start. Typically with science, and this doesn't mean that you won't explore it in other things too, but in science we're going to see a lot of sustainability and we're going to see a lot of systems. If we're studying something in social studies, we might see a lot of perspective and effects, okay? If we're seeing something with reading and writing, we're going to see a lot of meaning because we're trying to create something strategic within reading, writing, speaking, or listening. If we're looking at economics or finance, we're going to focus on theory because your world-class outcome is asking you to look at what drives economic, meaning finances and theory. If we're looking at something and we're not really quite sure what the problem is or what idea I have in that area, thesis and inquiry is a really good place to start, because what this means is as you uncover more information about a topic, you might develop a thesis or a new idea. If you're trying to just investigate something that maybe you don't know a lot about. Inquiry gives us an opportunity to research something, find a problem, and then justify a solution. So if you're not quite sure where you want to go with something, but you know that you're interested in it, thesis and inquiry are really good world-class outcomes to use. If you're looking at something maybe that is about coding or animation, process, sorry, I'm highlighting all that, process and pattern give us a good place to start, because I know that I'm having to work through a process and a pattern to create something that requires a process and a pattern. If I'm trying to justify something, if I have a strong belief in something and I want to share that with the world and make sure that I am creating an argument that is valid, I will work an argument. For this sake, I know that I'm working in science because at my content, I looked at life science. And I know that sustainability and systems tend to lead me to really good science connections in my content with my world-class outcome. And I see this keyword systems in my content. So I'm going to look specifically at my outcome options under systems. And I have two. I have evaluate the interactions within and among multiple systems. And I have evaluate the degree of influence within a complex social system. There might be a good social studies connection in here too. A good example of where systems might come into play with social studies content. I know that I don't have social studies content. I have science content. So I'm going to pay attention to this, evaluate the interactions within and among multiple systems. I might have to stop here and do some side research. I might have to understand the word evaluate, interactions, or systems. And so I might take some time to explore those words separately to understand what they mean. I know that interactions is when we have a result of two things kind of working together. And I know that systems are about how things work together. If I'm looking at my content, I can see that I'm trying to decide how veterinary medicine and the treatment of cancer specifically affects dogs. So I'm looking at the interactions of medicine on the system of a dog, probably multiple systems of a dog. So it might affect different body systems through a dog, or organism systems like my content says. I'm looking at how those interactions affect how a canine functions, how a dog functions, how the treatment of that medicine might change the system of a dog. So I'm thinking that this is going to be a really good world-class outcome for what I'm trying to do. All of my research and studying of medicine and cancer in dogs is going to lead me to a higher level of seeing how those things affect different systems within that canine. So I'm going to copy that world-class outcome, and I'm going to put it into my snapshot. Now, it's important that I don't leave it like that, because again, I want it to mean something to me, and I want it to connect to my content. I want all of my goals to align. So I'm going to have to add pieces of my content, pieces of what I'm interested in, to my world-class outcome, so that I know that I'm achieving that outcome through something that I'm already studying. If I leave it like this, it doesn't really sound like me, and it doesn't really give me or a facilitator or my parents an idea of why I'm looking at that. So I want to pull the key words out of here, and I'm going to highlight those for you. I've got interactions and I've got systems. Those are my two big things that I want to make sure that I am connecting my content to. Evaluate tells me what level of blooms I'm going to be working in later on when I put this into my project design. So this is an action that your facilitators are going to see. I don't have to worry about that quite yet. What I do want to worry about is whether or not interactions and systems is connected with what I want to study. Okay? So again, I'm thinking about the interactions that are taking place with veterinary medicine, specifically the treatment of canine cancer. So what interactions am I thinking about? What two things am I thinking about that are going to be reacting to each other and creating results? Well, that's the medicine that is being used to treat canine cancer. So I'm going to evaluate the interactions of medicine, and I might even more specifically say cancer medicine. And you know what, as I'm looking at medicine, I think a better way to say that is treatment. So evaluate the interactions of cancer treatment within and among the multiple systems. So I've got what interactions I'm looking at. I'm looking at the interactions of cancer treatment. And I want to think about on what. And in this case, I'm thinking about the systems that those things are interacting with. I'm looking at the systems of a dog, of a canine. So evaluate the interactions of cancer treatment within and among multiple systems of a canine affected by cancer. And I'm going to unhighlight those because I filled in my part of the content. I filled in the part that is interesting to me. So I've got cancer treatment and I've got canine affected by cancer. So I can see the connection to my content, but I haven't gotten rid of anything in my world-class outcome. I know that I'm still working towards a higher level. I'm still looking at having to gain a lot of basic information about cancer and about how the treatment is affecting dogs. I'm going to have to do some higher level thinking there. And so it's working up to a higher level, and eventually I'll probably go above that, and hopefully I'll be able to create something new that will treat cancer better or help dogs deal with cancer better. But this gives me a higher level goal that is both connected to my world-class outcome that I pulled from the blueprint plan page, but also something that I'm interested in. So I've taken what I'm interested in and I've combined it with my world-class outcome. Combined it, yes. So that I know that I am working towards a higher level goal. So again, I've got my foundation, I've got the basic information that I'm going to need to gather so that I can do something with it here in my world-class outcome. This tells me and my facilitator and everybody else that's a part of my project, my audience and the people I'm talking with about my project, what exactly I'm going to be doing. I see the science connection to that. I see what I'm interested connected in that, and I still have my higher level world-class outcome. So again, every time I have a goal, I'm going to request feedback from my facilitator so that I can continue to refine that goal. And I'm also going to seek peers out that are really excellent at giving constructive feedback to improve my goal if I have to. And this will give me a really good start in my Bloom's map. So when I go to make my daily learning targets, I'm taking the steps I need to achieve this higher level goal. Okay, so that's how you start by making a world-class outcome goal, combining what you're interested in with our world-class outcome and making sure that our content and our outcome are connecting and they're all working towards what I'm interested in.